Well, this is my Kennedy Power Hacksaw, which is a lovely little bit of kit. And I've had this for probably a couple of years now, and I did a video on it when I first got it. So if you want to go and have a look at that, that will tell you all about the saw. But we're revisiting it today for a couple of reasons. One is it needs a damn good clean, which is one of the reasons why it's on the bench. It normally lives on a shelf underneath the bench it's currently sat on. So it normally lives down there where it's quite happy. I clamp it in place and it is superb place to put it because it's out of the way and I can just leave it alone to cut stuff, and it's brilliant. However, I was watching a video on Cliff's Shed the other day, and if you haven't seen Cliff's channel, Cliff's Shed, go and have a look at it. I'll put a link in the description because he's a brilliant guy and he has some very good stuff on his channel. Anyway, he recently got himself a brand new Warco bandsaw, and if you're watching this, Cliff, I am very envious. But one of the things he did to the bandsaw when he first got it was to make a modification to the vise on the saw, which he'd done to a previous bandsaw that he had, and I'll swivel my power hacksaw around so you can see what I'm talking about. Oh, there we are, that's a much better angle. Let's just move this around a little bit. And we'll close in on the vise. There you go. Now, the vise on his new Warco is considerably better than the vise on the little Kennedy, but then it's a much larger saw. With the Kennedy, one of the problems is you've only got the hand wheel to tighten it up with, and you can't really get a lot of clamping force on with this with this hand wheel. And one of the things that tends to happen is if you've got a long piece of stock in there, like that, I mean, I'm exaggerating here, but I wouldn't normally be cutting off pieces of stock, you know, of this length. What can happen is, even when you clamp it up as tightly as you possibly can, the weight of the saw can lift this up like that. No matter how tight you try and clamp it in here, it can lift. And I've had that happen to me on several occasions. And basically what I've ended up doing is I've normally ended up putting a clamp round here, you know, engineer's clamp or G-clamp, something like that, just to hold it flat against these bars. Now, Cliff was saying that he's had similar problems with really, and we're talking like scaffold length poles here, very long pieces of bar stock in his bandsaw vise. And he came up with an absolutely brilliant but simple solution to this, which was simply to add a pair of extra jaws to the vise that extended out this side, as in the opposite side to the cutting blade. And then he simply drilled and tapped through the center of the jaw on the movable one and put a threaded rod in to act as an extra clamp. So I'll explain what I mean by that. So basically, let me get the jaws that I've already made up for this. It's effectively, what you're doing is this. So you put a couple of extra jaws, and you fix one to the movable jaw of the vise, and then one to the fixed jaw, and then basically you've got a screw in this end which acts as, when these jaws come apart, that acts as an extra clamp on this end of whatever stock you've got in the vise. And as he said, it's a simple but very effective means of improving the vise. And I've done exactly the same thing, obviously on a much smaller scale for the Kennedy here. But I've modified it slightly because I do cut quite a lot of small bar stock, you know, half an inch, that kind of thing, 5/16. So I've tapped another hole down here so that I can have two extra clamping screws, one there and one there, which will go through and clamp small bar stock or larger bar stock. So that's the theory. I don't know whether this one, let's stick this bit in. Obviously, this one would need the shorter bolt in the bottom to clamp onto it, but you get the idea. It basically just provides this a much more rigid clamp for the work that you've got in your bandsaw or power hacksaw vise. So that's the plan. I mean, these are just two bits of mild steel 1/4 inch plate which I've cut to length, cleaned up on the mill, and drilled and tapped a couple of 6mm holes in the movable plate here. Now all I've got to do is work out a way of fixing them on. Now this jaw should be fairly easy because I'm fairly certain that there's this split pin in here which I can tap out, which will allow me to remove the clamp rod, and then there's a bolt here which clamps this piece down onto the hexagonal sliders, so that the movable jaw should come out fairly easy, and then I can simply drill a couple of holes through this and drill and tap a couple more holes in this, and then I can screw that onto this. This jaw is going to be a bit more of a problem, and I'll probably end up fixing that jaw on by gluing it, because it's part of this casting, which means, and to get at this casting, to take it off of the base, I'd have to disassemble the entire saw, which I don't really want to do. Anyway, there you go, that's where we are with it. Well, as I suspected, the movable jaw was fairly straightforward to remove. Have a look at that. The split pin held it onto the threaded shaft, which engages with this slot here, and then there was a matching piece of hex bar underneath which this bolt went through, and there was a nut underneath and a spring washer. So that then allows you to take this off, movable jaw, which is fairly crude. It's just a piece of hex bar that's been welded onto a bit of flat mild steel plate. So it'll be fairly easy. I can drill a couple of clearance holes, one on this side, one on this side, and then I'll drill and tap the jaw that I've made, and that will sit on there like that. So that one, not going to be too much of a problem. Fairly simple, and I can drill and tap the plate that I've already made. The other one though, I'm not so sure about that. I'm going to have to scratch my head and think about it, but I'll probably end up attempting to glue it. I mean, most of the time it's going to be, when it's in use, it will be clamped, so it's not going to go anywhere. So I'm not too bothered about that. Yeah, we're getting there. Well, I've marked out the position of the 2 holes that I'm going to drill in the moving jaw. What I've decided to do is I'm going to drill and tap these 6mm, and then I'll drill clearance holes in the new jaw, and I'm going to countersink this side and use countersunk 6mm screws, and so I can screw that onto there. So that's today's job, is to get those holes drilled. Okay, so this is the setup I've got on the drill press. I have a parallel here which is slightly thinner than the thickness of the movable jaw, and then I've got that clamped using the parallel in the float lock vise. I've got my 5mm spot drill in there, which I'm going to spot the hole for the actual 5mm hole that's going to go through, and hopefully that should do the trick. So all I need now is my safety glasses, very important. So we'll get the drill going. Just spot that hole nicely. Right, now I'll swap the drill out for the 5mm drill. Okay, got the 5mm drill in place, so let's get our first hole drilled. And the old Craftsman drill press makes short work of drilling a hole in that movable drawer. I did actually test it with the scriber, and the jaw is quite soft, so I think it is just ordinary mild steel. So I shall repeat the process for the other hole. Now normally I would tap that as it is now, but I want to use transfer punches through those holes to mark the clearance holes in the new jaw. Okay, so this is the setup I've got for transferring the holes. Well, I'll zoom in on a bit on that so you can just see it nicely. Swing around a bit. There we go. There, right. So I've got my 2 holes, one there, drilled in the original moving vice jaw. I've got a parallel here, which is up against the edge of the new jaw and the old moving jaw, the original one. So they're squared up together, I've got it squared up on this edge. This is quite badly damaged, this edge of the original moving jaw, but that's the high point there, and that's squared up on the edge of the new jaw. So that's all square, and then I've clamped it in place using an engineer's clamp, and then I'm going to use a standard transfer punch like that to transfer the hole. And I shall do the same at this end. Job done. And then I will drill the holes out in the new plate, clearance for 6mm, and these will then be tapped 6mm. A little bit of an unconventional setup I've got for the original moving jaw to allow me to tap it. I can't go in from the other side because this hexagonal bar is too tall, and it will, the tap is only that long, and it gets in the, and that bar is just too tall, and I wouldn't be able to turn the tap. So I've got it rigged up on a couple of parallels on this face, clamped in the float lock vise, and as usual I've lined up the hole using the original drill bit that I used to drill that hole. So I'm now going to swap the drill out for the tap. Right, so pop a little bit of the old magic, tap magic on tap in the hole, and usual process, bring the tap down into the hole, apply a little bit of pressure and start the tap manually. And once you've got it going, you don't have to go in a few threads, it's just enough to get the tap to engage. There you go, like that, that's more than enough. Then release the chuck, if I can get the chuck key in, that is. There we go. And that will take that off there like that. And then I'll simply come in and put the tap wrench on the top there, like so. And now I can continue tapping, and I can actually feel what's going on, because the problem with the chuck is, although it lines it up nice and straight, you can't really feel, you got no feedback with this at all, whereas obviously with the chuck, with the tap wrench, I can actually feel what's going on. So I'll get on and tap that and do the second one. Okay, so all the holes are drilled and tapped, and this is about as far as I can go with it at the moment. As you can see, I've got cap head screws in there holding the new jaw onto the old jaw, but that all worked out fine. I don't have any countersunk 6mm Allen headed screws at the moment. I'm waiting for some. I've ordered some off of eBay. They should be here early next week. But yeah, no, it's all working out. It's all coming out quite nicely. You can see that's going to fit on there like that. That's a bit of a close-up on that actual vise itself. So you can see the idea. The new clamp will screw in from here through these two screws, and I think I'll probably use something like JB Weld to hold this fixed jaw in place. I think that will be more than adequate, given the fact that most of the time there's going to be clamping force on that jaw. It's not going to go anywhere. Yeah, so that's about it for now. Okay, so the mod for the Kennedy Power Hacksaw is finally finished. The both new jaws are now fixed on. For the screw, I decided, originally I was going to do what I think Cliff did, and that was just take a piece of a round steel bar stock the size of this piece at the end, and turn it down and thread one portion of it and create this type of knurled knob on the other end. But then I decided that it would be quite nice to be able to have the cap head Allen screw there in case I needed to put an Allen key on it and actually give it a bit more torque than I could get using this thumb wheel. So basically I've just taken a long stainless 6mm bolt. I made this knob up out of, this is home cast aluminium. This is aluminium I cast myself. Drilled a hole in it, counterbored it and threaded it 6mm, and then Loctited that bolt in there. So that then can go in either of these two threaded holes here. Wind that in there. So there you go. So that's now the extra clamp that is available at this end of the vise. So let's, so you can take you in and have a look at that a little bit better. So now when I put a long piece of bar in there, I'll just grab one from the stockpile. I can close the vise up as normal, just loosen the slacken this off. Get it level. Right, so it would still have a habit of this not gripping this properly. It would have a habit of tipping up when you put the saw on. But now I can add the extra grip that provides, and it should hold the whole thing firm. Haven't tried it out yet. Still looking forward to doing that. But no, I think this is going to make it. It's going to be a great improvement to the Kennedy overall. And my thanks go out to Cliff from Cliff's Shed YouTube channel, because he did this mod on his bandsaw, and I just thought it was an absolutely brilliant idea. And it's very, very simple to do. It just improves the vise no end. Okay, well that's it for the mod on the Kennedy Power Hacksaw vise. Hope you enjoyed this little video, and thank you very much for watching. Cheers.